So some of you who are here today heard us speak in the conference in Mount Shasta. And one of the things that was said there is that we talked about this idea of the prime directive of the one as it went into separation. And we talked about how the prime directive, the way we view it, is separated into two parts. One part is when the one wants to understand what it's like not to know itself, wants to understand itself from the perspective of separation, similar to the idea that you can't see your own face without a mirror. So in the idea of separation, then, the one can see different facets of itself. So that's part one of the prime directive. And while this might be an exciting adventure for the one, probably many of you would say it's not such an exciting adventure to be the fractal experiencing the challenge of the separation in order to reflect this idea to the one, yes? But part two of the prime directive is that once you have experienced the multitude of fractals of separation, there comes a point that now it's time to bring the fractals together and to remember what it's like to experience the joy of reconnection. So we liken then the journey of a species in a third density reality, which is the highest level of separation, as being part one of that prime directive. And as a species begins to move into fourth density, they then begin to transition to part two of the prime directive, which is the remembrance and the joyful experience of the reconnection back to the one. So the good news, my friends, is that because of your transition into fourth density now, you've changed primarily from the part one of the prime directive into the very beginning phases of part two. Now we know you might be looking around your world and seeing all the division and all the chaos and polarity that's happening on your world and wondering how in the world can this be a sign of us moving into part two of the prime directive? How can this be a sign of the joyful reconnection or the remembrance itself? That brings us now then to this idea of planetary energy and the planetary energy on your world at this time. No matter which country you live in, we know there are something like 17 countries represented in this workshop. We know that wherever you live, you are seeing your version of the same idea that appears on the surface to be massive polarity, massive fractalization, massive resistance. The good news is that this that you're seeing on your world now is actually a sign of the deeper shift that's happening that is bringing to the surface this, let's say, toxic, unhealed energy that is needing to come out. So not that we could say, oh, yes, the toxicity on your world is a good thing. It's more that it's just a sign of the deepening energy that's happening, the deepening energy transformation that's happening under the surface. As you know, the bad news or the negative things is always what gets the most attention. But there is something, there's some energetic force that is pushing all of this toxicity to the surface. As some of you may say, finally, yes? So, in looking at it from that perspective, then, we can say that your transformation is happening in a very predictable way, not necessarily a smooth way, but a predictable way, according to the rules of energy dynamics. So if you can then, as you are navigating this difficult time on your world, really try as best as you can to have that bigger view and understand what is happening and do your best to tend your own garden and to do what you need to do to help you stay in that, let's say, higher vision frequency, let's say, because it can be very easy to get dragged back down into the old third density paradigm that is purging on your planet now. So when we do contact energy, then contact work, it gives you an opportunity and a tool even to continue to teach yourself how to resonate with higher frequencies, not as an escape. This is really, really important. This is not an escape. It is an attunement. This is a very different idea. Now, we understand there are some people that use contact and ETs and that kind of thing as an escape, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about using it as an attunement to the higher frequencies, the more natural frequencies of who you are as a hologram, who you are as the one.